Okay, it's a bittersweet week in Baltimore, and a lot has been going on this week. From the we had our instant reaction to the Ravens Steelers heartbreaking loss over there at the end with the missed field goal, and then 2 days later, I think that the Ravens waited a day out of honor for a guy that's been 18 days, because Black Mondays you have like the one and done, two and done, 3 year coach type of guys that get fired, but I think it would have been a little bit of a chutzpah to fire him on Black Monday, so they waited till Black Tuesday to fire John Harbaugh. And it was a little weird the thing was done. But you guys remember that Bill Belichick, when he was fired, it was kind of like a joint press conference, mutually parting ways. Now we know that wasn't true. They fired him, but that's not the point. The point is there was some front-facing way in which they did it more cordially, and this wasn't that. They just canned him after 18 years. So I thought it was a very interesting way to do it. But first let's get our initial reaction to that, and then we'll kind of talk about who we think is going to replace Harbaugh in Baltimore. We'll skip the intro for now because we're going to do that on our preview. So anyway, so Micey, what was your initial reaction to hearing that Harbaugh was canned?
I mean, I've been calling for his jobs for a number of years, even when we had our really good years. And, you know, I was always saying, it's the time, give me another coach, give me another coach, give me another coach. I've always been a fan of getting another coach. I've been called crazy. I've been told a whole bunch of things. Um, but give me a second here. Sorry. But I'm kind of glad. I wish they did it 2 years or a year ago, really, even when we were really good, because the coaching candidates from those couple of years, last 2 years, have been incredible options. And to think that the Ravens aren't the number one spot, if you're a coach looking for a job, I mean, the Ravens are your team. You have the players are there, and they're hungry, and the city is pumped. The city is hungry. We're a football city. Our baseball team is worthless right now. I mean, obviously, they're also starting fresh, and they've had, and maybe hopefully, but that's another story. But the Ravens, the city backs the Ravens, and the fans love the Ravens, and so if you're a coach, so imagine 2 years ago, or last year, Ben Johnson, and you could have just upgraded Mike McDonald to head coach. You could have done all these things that would have changed the atmosphere, changed everything. No, here we are. Okay, and I've gone through the candidates, and we'll get into them. But but I'm excited for a fresh start. And somebody said, "Oh, Harbaugh this and Harbaugh did that and Harbaugh this," and you know, here's the big thing I have to say. And this comes from Indiana. This college obviously very different. Though I'm not comparing college to the NFL, but college, right? Indiana is the most perfect example of this. They were the worst program almost in history, historically one of the worst football programs in history of college football, and they got a coach. They got Signetti, and this guy is a football guy, and he has taken that program. Last year they won the Big Ten. This year and this year they are the best team in college football by a big margin, and they are by far the favorite to win the national championship right now. So and all it was is he's just like a football guy. He's just a guy, and he's just the coach. Oh, the players did it, but you realize, and I'm not calling Harms a bad coach, but a great coach changes. It takes away the little mistakes they make. For example, Isaiah Likely, a good coach will drill into Isaiah Likely. You do not reach out at the 1 yard line. Why? Because we have Derek freaking Henry, and you give the ball to him 4 times, and those times he's going to push through for a touchdown, right? So just even if you go down at the 1 yard line, it's okay. You don't need Zay Flowers, even when he fumbled it against the Chiefs in the playoffs. That's a play that you don't. A good coach drills that out of them. Don't reach out. It's okay. You go down at the 1 yard line. It's okay. No, I don't really know his name, but there are many little tiny mistakes. A good coach takes away those mistakes. And when a team isn't backing their coach, those mistakes play a big factor because they're not listening to their coach. It's not getting drilled into them. And these guys, oh, but they're NFL players. Little mistakes get eliminated by good coaching. And you're saying, oh, they better have a good coach in mind. There are good coaches out there. I mean, from Stefanski and even like McDaniels to there's a bunch of defensive coordinators out there, and there's offensive coordinators. There's a lot of people out there that are good candidates. And I'm not saying, oh, those guys are automatically better than John Harbaugh. No, John Harbaugh is one of the best coaches to ever coach the game. He's a football mind. Him and Jim are great football minds, but that doesn't take away from the fact that your team and your city is not backing you right now, and it's time for that change. And I'm excited for change in this city.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I see it as well. We are super thankful and grateful. Won a Super Bowl in 2012, but the NFL does become a what have you done for me lately business, and people who um, act like, oh, I can't believe you fire Harbaugh. He's immediately the number one option for any other team. They don't realize, or I think it's revisionist history that Harbaugh was going to get fired in 2018. He almost got fired after 2017 after playoffs every straight year with the most boring offense and mediocre mid team I've ever seen. Consistently losing in the big games to the immaculate stretch and then injuries in 2015, but consistently like Joe Flacco and that Ravens offense lose my love for the game of football. It was just boring football, and the defense wasn't like incredible. It was average, a little above average. The offense was average to below average, and they just consistently couldn't beat the Steelers or win enough games to even get in as a wild card team. Excuse me. And he was going to get fired until they drafted a guy named Lamar Jackson, and in the middle of the season, Flacco gets hurt, and the bye week he completely changes his entire identity of the team and offense. And that was one of Harbaugh's best moments, I gotta say. To completely flip the offense to a run first quarterback who was a project who couldn't really throw at that time, to go all in with him to try to save his job, honestly. And then it worked, and then the defense stepped up, and then they obviously had a very tough playoff game, but they won the division with a whole new system in the middle of the year, flipped it all over the bye week. That was incredible. And then to be consistently amazing 2019, 2023, and awesome with Lamar Jackson was really good coaching, but we needed to take that next level, and you never could take us to the next level. And we don't want to be a team that is happy with really good in the regular season, and we're happy winning a lot of games and not winning Super Bowl. So I think eventually the message runs stale, and the team stops responding to a coach who's been there for so long, and it's just continually every year there seems to be some mental error or little coaching thing, as Mike Steve was saying about sticking the ball out, and these little things not running the ball enough against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship when that was clearly the Chiefs' weakness, and not getting out-coached, I would say, in big moments. And then obviously all the blown leads.
Constantly getting coached.
Yeah, and then the blown leads, I think, come down to being out-coached and also a coaching issue and a mindset issue. And the fact that it keeps happening with this guy, obviously he can't control what the players are doing. The players are the ones on the field doing this. But to have that continually happen feels like there's some sort of mental block, mental issue coming from the coach's perspective. And sometimes it's time for a new voice. And Mike Tomlin saying on the Rich Eisen show, he's like, "This is what's wrong with the sports entertainment."
He was not a fan of the firing.
People give up too fast. I'm like, it's been 18 years, bro. But
you also have to remember he has a personal relationship with Harbaugh over the years. He's going to be biased, but yeah, of course, to say they weren't patient was
also
crazy.
I see online some fans be like, it's crazy to fire a Super Bowl winning head coach. We did it before, first of all, right? Teams do it all the time.
Every coach that's ever been fired in NFL history won a Super Bowl.
What do you mean?
I'm sorry. Every coach that's ever won a Super Bowl in NFL history has been fired, except for maybe Andy Reid. That's about it. Except for the three most recent guys, which will be fired eventually.
He didn't win a Super Bowl and get fired, right? Don Shula and maybe Lombardi himself.
You're right. Some guys resign. It's rare. Some guys resign. It's rare that a head coach runs his course and resigns. Most guys.
I think we all consider real quick. Resigning is almost the same as, hey, buddy, it's time to go, and you've been great. So
Very few
Like,
guys
you know?
are like, I'm done with the game. It's happened, but it's rare. Most guys get fired eventually anyway, whether they win a Super Bowl or not. As will happen with Tomlin if they lose next week.
Pete Carroll got fired this year, and he's a Super Bowl winning coach. He got
Pete
fired
Carroll got
twice
fired
now.
the first time as a Super Bowl winning coach with the team he won the Super Bowl also. As did Sean Payton, as did, the Broncos, as who else? I mean, you name it. Even Andy Reid got fired. He didn't win a Super Bowl, but that's the point.
The Drew Brees, I mean, not Drew Brees, Sean, like you said, Sean Payton.
Sean Payton got fired twice, really. But I think everything you guys are saying is true. However, I have a little more sympathy for Harbaugh because I started following football in 2008. He's all I know. He's literally all I know. Him on the Ravens side, like someone else on the Ravens side.
What were you doing before that?
It's gonna look very weird to. I don't know. What was I doing? Honestly, what was I doing in my life?
but learning algebra instead of buying property.
It's funny, I have a funny. I did not care about football at all until I was 10 years old. It sounds like very young, but in my family we start when we're 5. So I did not care about football at all. One day I went to my uncle's house to watch a game. My father went. It was 2008. It was Joe Flacco's rookie year, and my father went every weekend. I'm like, I'm bored on Sunday. I might as well just check it out, go. And the first week, I'm like, this game actually is pretty fun. It's pretty interesting. And slowly but surely, I started to develop. By the end of the year, I was diehard. When they lost in the AFC Championship game with the Palomalo pick six, I was devastated. The entire week. So by the end of the year, I was completely hooked. But point being, I mean, that's connected to what I'm saying. Like all I know is John Harbaugh. So for me, and listen, since 2008, I go back to this all the time. The third most playoff wins of any team is the Baltimore Ravens. The fourth most regular season wins are the Baltimore Ravens. They are one of, 8 or 9 teams to win a Super Bowl in that span. So we're not talking about a coach that lacks success in the win-loss column, either in the postseason or in the regular season. You can't get him for that. The man has 180 regular season wins and 13 playoff wins in 18 years, which is very incredible. Over 1 playoff win per season. Very, very rare to have a rate like that. Very rare to have sustained success. To average 10 wins a year, to only have less than 8 wins once in 18 seasons is very, very rare. So sustained success is an accomplishment in the NFL. Top off a Super Bowl, top off several AFC Championship game appearances, and he's a Hall of Famer, there's no question. At the same time, I don't disagree with you guys. Sometimes it runs its course. Bill Belichick got fired too. Tomlin will get fired probably within the next year or two as well. If they don't lose next week, it might be next week as well. But, it doesn't mean he's not a great coach. He's also a first ballot Hall of Fame coach. But at the same time, it gets stale. The Ravens only won 3 playoff games in the last 13 years. The Steelers have won a playoff game in a decade. These guys, to me, it's going to be the end of an era. Like, if we see Tomlin getting fired next week and Harbaugh getting fired this week, the amount of battles that those guys had with playoffs on the line, with the division on the line, the amount of games that came down to 3-point games, 2-point games, 1-point games, last kicks, end of the game touchdowns, game-winning touchdowns with 10 seconds, 20 seconds by Flacco, Roethlisberger, back and forth they've gone, from last year into the playoffs and this year, the last game of the season, like up until the last second, these guys were battling very close games, very meaningful games with playoff berths on the line. It's going to be the end of an era. I really think that. Like the Ravens Steelers era, I think is gonna. It's not over, but it's not gonna be the same after this year. That's the way I feel.
Well,
how funny would it be if? Yeah, go ahead.
Ravens could hire Brian Flores, and then the Steelers will promote Arthur Smith, and then.
So who do you think Yehuda? Who do you think's the most likely candidate for the Ravens? Go into that.
I do want to talk about that, but I think my something to say real quick.
Real quick. I think it'd just be really funny if both John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin ended up again, because they're both going to get hired in the same division. No, not switch. Yeah. Imagine they both in the same division. Like, I don't know. I think who's 2 teams that are firing their coach.
Eagles lose round 1 to the Niners. Sirianni.
They fire Sirianni.
Harbaugh gets hired by the Giants.
And Tomlin would go to the Eagles. I can see that.
The Commanders, and the Giants are both looking for coaches. Imagine they both went to the Commanders. Like, imagine
that would be wild.
Goes down the block, and Mike Tomlin went to the Giants, and that's very possible that Mike Tomlin ends up on the Giants, and then you have 2 of the best coaches going at it again. It'd be so much fun just to have them both, because it is a great matchup. And I just want to say also that I think that no team is hiring any coach. Usually coaches kind of get hired pretty quick sometimes. Sometimes it takes a little time, but usually coaches go pretty quick. But no one's even there's not even like rumors, because I think people are waiting for that Mike Tomlin to see what happens, and people are waiting
100%.
for the Sirianni. What happens with Sirianni? And there's, I mean, all these coaches, people are waiting to see. And John Harbaugh obviously is probably the best coach available, but not for Baltimore. Maybe we do rehire him. That'd be funny. Imagine we're like, actually, you know what? Our coaching thing went bad. You're coming
No,
back now.
if you're talking about funniest things to happen would be Kevin Stefanski go to the Ravens, Tomlin go to the Browns, and Harbaugh go to the Steelers, something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like and then Zach Taylor get fired next year. Maybe just wait till next year. Zach Taylor get fired and everyone just swap.
Yeah.
That would be because no
It would be
AFC.
pretty good.
We could be looking at a situation by next week where the only AFC North coach is left is Zach Taylor, which would be quite funny.
That's insane. That's insane.
But yeah, go ahead.
Okay, no, so yeah, we were gonna talk about
Yeah.
potential I think that's what we want because people have been floating a lot of names around, and I'm sure we all got our ideal candidate and so on and so forth. But Yehuda, who do you think is most likely? / who do you want? That's two things. Who do you want to be the coach, and who do you think is most likely?
Who do I want? I don't know because I don't know if I want to do a defensive first head coach with an awesome Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry for a year or two, because I think if you get I could see defensive coordinator or defensive mindset first, and then just the offensive coordinator who is amazing with the team, and if they win a Super Bowl within the next year or two, then he leaves. That guy would then leave as a head coach again. So I think you could see like a possibility like a Brian Flores D first mindset. He's a bit of a tough personality, burned a lot of bridges in Miami, but maybe now that he's get to work with Lamar Jackson, he would be a nicer guy. And then bring Mike McDaniel in, who just got fired a couple hours ago, as the offensive coordinator. If he'd go and do that. He did.
Yeah.
I didn't know this. They said he was going to be a part of the GM search.
I know, and then Troy said, "Nah, dude.
Nah, dude.
Get your autistic ass."
McDaniel got fired? I did not know that.
Yeah,
McDaniel's going to end up in
Arizona. This changes everything.
This changes everything. Harbaugh's going to be the head coach in Miami, I think, or Tennessee. Meisty's source, but yeah, like Brian Flores head coach, which would be very ironic if Brian Flores is the head coach and then Mike McDaniel is his offensive coordinator because McDaniel took over as head coach for Brian Flores. But like something like that, where you have a guy who wants to prove himself again as take a couple of years off as a head coach, and then if he does amazing things with Lamar on offense, then he could leave in a year or two, get his own head coaching job again.
Throw the whole podcast out the window. I did not know that. Oh my god, this changes everything.
Are you interested in Mike McDaniel?
Absolutely, that was my number one guy. If potentially he got fired, I mean, you go ahead. I'll explain why afterwards, but you go ahead. This is just absolutely.
Yeah.
Continue your train of thought.
Yeah. So I think maybe you could also go Jesse Minter, the D coordinator for the Chargers, who could be eliminated after Saturday night or Sunday night, and then he would have a lot more time for interviews and stuff. You could pair him, and I think it would be a bit of a lateral move for Clint Kubiak, who's the offense coordinator for the Seahawks, but he could then pair Minter as a guy who's worked with Harbaugh's and knows the Ravens. He's worked for the Ravens as well. And then get Kubiak, who I think his dad worked for the Ravens also, right? Like Gary Kubiak was in Baltimore, or was like he was like rumored. Oh yeah, he was the offensive coordinator for the Ravens for a year in 2014. So some connections maybe. Like I don't know if he would accept an offensive coordinator, his son Clint. Like he might want to be a head coach. But if he's if you go offensive head coach, then I don't know what you do. D coordinator. I mean, obviously, I would think get rid of Zach Orr, but I don't know if it's smart to go offensive coordinator because like it feels like you have. I mean, obviously, you want to go all in on offense, but the thing that really has been holding back the team is a defense that has not created turnovers in the playoffs and really stepped up in the playoffs. Besides for the one game I would say against the Chiefs, where they stepped up and the offense really held them back. So I don't know. It's a philosophical question. Do you want to go defense first or offense first? I think I might want to go. Like I think the best possible situation would go defense first, head coach with an amazing offensive coordinator, Mike McDaniel type. That's what I think would be
Yeah,
probably
so I
best.
so I'm in agreement with you there, Yehuda, that I'm looking for a defensive coordinator first, someone a defensive minded, I should say. Um, and I personally don't mind. You said Jesse Minter's a great option. Chris Shula is another option from the Rams if he's
Oh,
available. I don't know what the yeah,
oh,
it's a good he's a young guy that Sean McVay bring, coming up the Sean McVay coaching tree. It's kind of something that's a little, quirky minded and can call different things and get a different. And by the way, he's a who's his father? He is his father played for the Ravens, or he's the head coach for the Colts.
Who?
I think Baltimore Colts. His Chris Shula's dad. The Rams, Shula is the son of
Dave
former
Shula.
Baltimore Colts receiver and NFL head coach for the Bengals, Dave Shula. He's the grandson of former Baltimore Colts and Miami Dolphins head coach Don Shula. So
Yep.
it's in the blood. It's in the
Longest
blood to
tenured coach in
coach.
NFL history, I think. Don Shula, right?
That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
He's up there.
I mean,
a pretty
it's
pretty
another
good coach.
guy. He's a good coach. He's from the Rams, And then I actually, and this is a little, people don't love this guy, but if you paired, because he's all, I mean, he might get a head coaching job, which is fine. But if you brought in Cliff Kingsbury to coach for the offense, he's a little interesting guy, but he knows the offense. He's worked with mobile quarterbacks in the past. He's not a bad coach. He's had bad luck, but that's also mostly as a head coach. I would like to see Cliff Kingsbury as an offensive coordinator matched up
Yeah,
with either a Jesse Minter or a what did I say, Chris Shula. That's
for Shula.
a guy,
Yeah.
and then honestly, if Zach Gore is still in, Zach Gore's a players coach. He's a players guy. It's the players like him. He's what. So then you keep a guy like Zach Gore. He's a Baltimore I don't say a legend, but he's a Baltimore legend. He's a Baltimore guy. So you keep him around for a couple more years. He's not really doing much. He's kind of just calling. He's not calling the plays. Kind of just hanging out with the players, keeping their spirits up on defense. He's one of those guys that are good to have around. It's always kind of like that. But you have a Christian who's calling the plays on defense, and then you have a Cliff Kingsbury running the offense with that mobile quarterback mind. He's worked with Kyler Murray. He's now worked with Jaden Daniels. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. Obviously, if you brought in a Jesse Minter, he's also very good. He's working with Jim Harbaugh now. I would not like to see. I think Clint Kubiak is literally just a step in the wrong direction. See, the big thing here is you don't want to become one of those teams that are hiring coaches like left and right. Next year, you got to find your guy. And
True.
the Ravens organization isn't like the type of organization that's going to just fire. They're going to give a guy a long run. They're going to give. I mean, unless he's really bad, but they're going to let a guy go. I mean, even and I'm not a huge fan of Vance Joseph from the Broncos. But even Vance Joseph, he's kind of someone who knows how to call a defense. He's a little, he's a little older though. Not that he's old. He's like I think he's 52, 53 years old. And then obviously there's the
Those
Kevin.
coaches are now like 20, 23 years old now.
That's what I'm
You're
saying. Like Chris Shula is
now.
39. I'm just saying Chris Shula is like 39. It's you got if you're looking for a guy to run a long term, more than 10 years, a guy like Vance Joseph, he'll be 63 in 10 years. It's not great. Now, obviously, then there's the Kevin Stefanski, and bringing in a guy like Kevin Stefanski, it's not a lateral move. It's I kind of feel like it's kind of what's the word when you're just kind of plateauing. It's a little bit of a plateau move where you're just kind of it's the same type of guy, a football minded, offensive minded, can keep the players going, but it's not. I don't think you want him calling your plays.
Yeah.
He can run the right book. But play. I mean, unless players respect him, you're not gonna. And I think Chris Shula can really gather that locker room and get them. So I'm hoping for a Chris Shula, but obviously there's a Mike McDan. I can't even. There's two of them. Mike McDaniel's. He's obviously an option. I don't know whether he's the type of guy that might just take the year off. Mike McDonald's be like, I need a year. Let me decide what I want to do next year. There'll always be another coaching option. Offense coordinators are always moving. So we'll see what happens with Mike McDaniels. He's got a lot of complicated situations. I think he's gonna end up in like Arizona or one of these teams with like nice weather that he doesn't have to go out and into the cold. He don't like the cold much, so I think he's gonna try to stay on like the west. He's gonna move to the West Coast. It's very funny. Jim Harbaugh actually commented on John's firing, and he's like, "I just hope he goes to the NFC."
Yeah, so
But
I agree with
yeah,
you guys.
yeah,
I think it's a dilemma. Like, I first of all, I think for sure you get a play caller, whether it's offense or defense. None of this, life coach, head coach type of guy, which is essentially what John Harbaugh was, and it worked for a number of years. I mean, it's only recent. Yeah, but his function on the Ravens was not he. That's what people were like. Oh, he has an offensive play sheet. The man's never called plays in his life. You think he's calling plays all of a sudden on the offensive side? No, that's not happening. So everyone got excited about that.
He calls field then things.
Correct.
So.
He's there to boost the morale of the team, to decide when they're going for it on fourth down, decide when they're going for it on 2-point conversions. I think he was good at that, by the way. But anyway, that's not my point. I think I already discussed I thought Harbaugh was a good coach. But anyway, to replace him, I do think now in the new era, you should get a defensive caller, or you should get a play caller on either side of the ball, whoever it is. I don't know if I love the idea of Robert Saleh. They've been floating that around. I don't know if I love the idea of Clint Kubiak, and I'll tell you why. If you're going to go defense, go Jesse Mint or Brian Flores. If you're going to go offense, I was coming into this podcast saying my favorite option is Kevin Stefanski. I personally think the Browns should not have fired him. 2-time coach of the year. He turned around the Browns franchise twice. This is a franchise that hadn't won a playoff game in a million years. And he was the first one. They made the playoffs twice and finally won one with 4 different quarterbacks. They won a game with 4 different quarterbacks in that year. You know what I'm saying? They're actually a good team now. Granted, they had a horrible quarterback situation this past season, but like these last 5-6 years, that franchise has turned a corner. I really believe that. They actually build good rosters. They draft well. Look at how many pieces they have on the defensive side that they drafted, homegrown. So I think that now that's not him. He's not the GM, but I do think that they turned a corner and he was a part of that. So I don't think they should have fired him. I don't think I think they needed a scapegoat and he was the scapegoat. But anyway, so I would have loved Kevin Stefanski personally. I think that's a great option. I think a lot of Ravens fans would have fetched about it because they would have been like, "Oh, you're going to take a Browns coach," but I do think he's a good play caller. But now if McDaniels, I mean, to get someone from the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree is, to me, to pair with Lamar Jackson, like I've been saying this when you guys were already floating around, John Harbaugh getting fired, and we were of course floating around McDaniel getting fired for 2 years now, right? I'm like, that would kind of be interesting. You were saying, Meisty, maybe he goes to Miami and Lamar goes to Miami and pairs up with him that way, but for him to come to Baltimore and to pair up with Lamar Jackson, now you have creative play calling in addition to having a player that's creative in himself. I think that could be really exciting. Yes, you want to improve the defensive side. I think that's more bodies than play calling. I think Zach Orr did a horrible job disguising blitzes this year and rushing 3 in critical situations with a team that can't even create pressure with 4. Like, that was absolutely horrible. I think there's definitely a problem with the defensive play calling. I just don't think you need a great defensive mind. I just think you need to add a pass rusher with Kyle Hamilton and Roquan Smith and Travis Jones. Like, they have enough pieces. I just think you need to add a pass rusher and get a decent defensive mind. But if you can get a Mike McDaniel, someone that has that real great offensive play calling ability in the Kyle Shanahan tree, then to pair with Lamar Jackson, that could put you over the top. And like, listen, if it is true that one of the reasons Harbaugh's fired is because of his relationship with Lamar, which we don't know that's true, that's speculation, but let's say it's true, then getting a guy in there like Mike McDaniel, who always looks like he's high, is probably a good idea to pair with Lamar Jackson. Like, they'll probably get along. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's a good idea. I think you get along with Lamar Jackson. I think they can work. I think also for work ethic wise, like to work together with a guy like Mike McDaniel in the offensive play calling, I think would be such an interesting dynamic over there. So, in terms of intrigue, for intrigue, I think that's the best option for sure.
There's a rumor, by the way, and you never know with these guys if they're telling the truth, what they actually know, and these reporters. But there's a rumor going around that part of the issue with Lamar and Harbaugh that they were having is that Lamar wasn't interested in running so much, and he wanted to be a pure pocket passer. And that Harbaugh was kind of saying to him, "Hey, your biggest strength is the fact that you can also run. So if you just want to be a pocket passer, that's not going to work." And we saw that a lot where Lamar didn't want to run, and even in the game where he had the opportunity to run, he wasn't running. So now moving forward, if that is the case, that, I'm going to be a pocket passer. No, Lamar Jackson, you have to run the ball, and your best strength is that when things are breaking down, you take off running and you run hard. Now we saw that this past year. Now we had a lot of injuries, but he's been running very soft and kind of just jogging along and going down and not as interested in running. So it's kind of interesting to see what actually happens with the new coach. Like, are they just going to let Lamar control that narrative of, hey, I'm a pocket passer and you're not gonna design runs for me? Because that does hurt the Ravens majorly. And I wonder, what's really going to happen. You bring in a Cliff Kingsbury or a McDaniel, and what happens when if they say, hey, Lamar, you got to run the ball, and he's like, no, sir. So maybe we do have a Lamar Jackson problem, and I don't know if in the next year or two we're going to see them move on from Lamar, but if we have a Lamar Jackson issue, then we have a Lamar Jackson issue. And it's going to be like, oh, see, it wasn't John Harbaugh, it was Lamar Jackson. It's the same thing. It's one and the other. They kind of go, yeah, Harbaugh, you lost Lamar Jackson because you put him in a bad situation, and Harbaugh, and you have to be smarter, Lamar Jackson. But it's very interesting when these reports come out because a lot of them are bogus, and it's just a reporter looking for some clicks most of the time. But it's always interesting to read them and see what they're talking about and stuff like that.
I agree, and I think there were like reports that Ian Rappaport said that John Harbaugh lost the locker room. They went and spoke to players. I don't know. Ian Rappaport, pretty reliable reporter, but also these guys like to say things.
They're
so they're the first one to
say
all
about
their job. It's not a bang on him. Their job, guys like him and Schefter, their job is to be the first one to say whatever it is. So, take it or leave it with a grain of salt. Anyway.
Yeah, Shefty, I heard Shefty on the podcast say that. I heard Shefty literally say that on a podcast once. He was like, I don't know how about half the times I say something, I'm just like, sounds good.
No, because you know why? Because you want to be the first one to say it, and okay, if it's wrong, it's wrong. But if it's right, you'll blow up.
It's the one job you could be. It's the one job, like from Skip Bayless. Like you could be the most wrong human being, and you 100%. Still are the best at your job.
100%. All right, so let's wrap up the Harbaugh discussion there. And of course, I think if Tomlin gets fired next week, we'll have to probably get on and discuss this a little further because I really think this might be the end of an era in the AFC North. But that'll be to be determined at a later point in time. For now, John Harbaugh out in Baltimore, Mike McDaniel out in Miami. A bunch of interesting coaching decisions yet to be made within these next few weeks. We'll see you later.